Welcome, dear listener, to another episode of Wishcrafting, where together we weave history, myth, and magic through the lens of storytelling and sharing. I'm Wishamaya, and today we are unraveling the mysteries of one of my favorite festivals, Rosalia. Rosalia is an ancient festival that intertwined the worlds of the living and the dead. It's a celebration of solemn remembrance and of springtime roses and the spirits beyond the veil, and how they can engage in springtime joy as well, just like we do. The Rosalia festivals, sometimes called the Rosaliae, were ancient Roman and Greek rites dedicated to both the dead and the blooming world of flowers, particularly roses. Now, I don't know about you, listener, but to me, there is just something completely delicious and wonderful about the idea of a festival day dedicated to the bright blooming joy of flowers and allowing space for spirits to come and engage with that joyous energy of springtime. Springtime that is associated with such brightness and vitality. And then the dead and the realm of the dead, which is often shadowy and unfamiliar and scary to us all. I love the combination of these two things, and I love that roses are the flower that herald this liminal space of celebration. It seems absolutely and completely fitting. Roses are vibrant, yet deeply reverent. And roses in ancient Greece and Rome were placed on graves, they were used at feasts of remembrance, and they even have connections to the cults of very popular and powerful deities such as Venus, Flora, and even our underworld queen herself, Persephone. So, listener, settle in, light some incense, get warm and cozy, and let's explore how the petals of the past still whisper their magic to us today. Let's dive in. Now, the festival of Rosalia has deep roots in the classical world, particularly Greek traditions. The name itself comes from rose, which is the Latin word for roses, and at its core, the festival was about honoring both the beauty of spring and the spirits of the dead, and the beauty that they held both in life and after death. The earliest references to Rosalia comes from the Roman Empire, particularly from the 1st and 2nd centuries CE, when it was widely celebrated throughout the Mediterranean. However, some scholars do trace its origins to older Greek customs of adorning tombs with flowers, a tradition that likely influenced Roman funerary practices. Now, what makes Rosalia unique is how it seamlessly blended themes of life and death. It was both a festival of flowers and a time to honor the ancestors. This duality, a duality of blooming roses and resting spirits, was seen as a natural cycle. Just as the petals of a flower eventually fall, so too does the spirit of the dead return to the earth, only to be remembered and honored through offerings of blossom and prayer, and depending on the belief system and the time, eventual rebirth to come back into the world, if you were lucky. Rosalia was not a single-day event, but rather a recurring festival which took place over a few days to a week, and it was observed in late spring, usually towards the end of May or the early part of June. This timing aligned it with other floral festivals like Floralia, but also like the Roman Parentalia, which was kind of like a more somber version of Rosalia. Now, there were several key ways that Rosalia was celebrated. The first, and perhaps most important, was the adorning of graves and grave sites with roses and wreaths. This was the heart of this festival. It was a big deal, and it was a family affair. Families would gather at cemeteries, bringing offerings of fresh roses to place upon the tombs or tombstones of their loved ones. This practice was not merely symbolic. The scent and the beauty of the roses were believed to soothe the restless spirits and serve as a bridge between the living and the dead, which is absolutely delightful to me. Like any good festival, there were also banquets and dinners, but these banquet dinners were held in honor of our departed, beloved dead. Much like the Roman Parentalia, the festival of Rosalia involved feasts at grave sites, where families would dine amongst the tombs, sharing food, sharing wine with their family that was still alive, but also sharing with their ancestors. This was a very connective time where the boundary between the worlds was often looked at as softened by the presence of the roses and the shared energy of remembrance. It was also processions and rituals. In some cases and some regions, Rosalia included a procession of flower-adorned statues of gods and ancestral spirits. Some records even suggest that the military adopted Rosalia as a day to honor fallen soldiers, often decorating the burial sites of the fallen soldiers with roses. As with many ancient festivals, Rosalia had its own share of folk magic. Roses were believed to carry protective and love-enhancing properties, so they were often used in spells, amulets, potions, and of course, divinations during this festival. While roses are central to the symbolism of Rosalia, their meaning is extended beyond mere beauty or decoration. In Roman and Greek mythology, roses were sacred to several deities, each with their own connection to the festival. Let's start off with my girl, Venus, or Aphrodite. The rose was one of the most sacred flowers of Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, among other things, but most notably love and beauty. When her lover, Adonis, was slain and he was lost to her, it was said that from his blood she grew the first red roses, making the flower a symbol of both love and grief, which is perfectly fitting for Rosalia. I do want to comment in here and say there are many stories of Aphrodite's loss of Adonis and many different flowers that spring up from the blood of Adonis, but the red rose is the most common, right before the anemone, and I believe the poppy after that. So it really just depends who the author is and what version of the story you're reading, but for today, it's very appropriate that we look at that version of the story. Next, we have Flora, the Roman goddess of flowers, who presided over the blooming of flowers. And we've talked about her a little bit already, but she, of course, was also connected to Rosalia. Her energy, her domain was the blooming of flowers, so she was intrinsic to this festival going well. While Floralia celebrates the vibrant, sensual aspect of flowers, Rosalia had a more reflective quality to it. honoring beauty and joy and love in the face of pure, upfront, undeniable mortality. However, this party would not be complete without the queen of the underworld herself, Persephone. The presence of flowers and funerary rites was deeply tied to Persephone. The Greeks believed that certain flowers, but especially poppies, roses, and lilies, had power in and over the realm of the dead, serving as offerings to guide spirits peacefully onward to where they needed to go. There was certainly the guiding hand of divinity in various ways in this festival of Rosalia, but there were other spirits very closely tied to earth that were involved in this festival day as well. In Roman spirituality, the lares, or the household spirits, and the manes, or the ancestral spirits, were often offered offerings right alongside the gravestones of the recently beloved dead. Rosalia was one of the key moments when families would call upon these spirits for protection, prosperity, and of course, guidance. Though Rosalia faded from widespread practice with the Christianization of Rome, elements of it persisted in folk traditions. The idea of decorating graves with flowers has endured in many cultures, from Dia de los Muertos in Mexico to the Slavic custom of leaving floral wreaths for the dead, to the very common practice of simply leaving a bouquet of flowers on the gravestone of your beloved dead. For modern witches, Rosalia offers up unique opportunities to commune in both joy and connection to the spirit realm. And you could do this, celebrate this festival in a bunch of different ways. Really, there are lots and lots of possibilities to dive into this festival. You could create a flower offering ritual, dedicating roses or other blooms to your ancestors, placing them on your altar, a gravestone, or even just releasing some petals or flowers into water as a sign of remembrance. Water remembers always. So, water remembers you, water remembers your ancestors, and all those who came before. So that could be a really simple, grounded way to tap into the energy of Rosalia. You might also choose this time of the year to work with roses, as they're sacred to Venus and Flora and Persephone. So they could be worked with in a great many kinds of different spells, either to strengthen bonds of love or to strengthen your connection to people in the living realm or the spirit realm, for spells of protection, all kinds of different things, especially working alongside roses and any of the goddesses associated with this feast day. Perhaps you have heard of the idea of a dumb supper for Samhain or the Day of the Dead, and you could do that for Rosalia as well. Set a place for your ancestors at the table and invite them to partake in a meal, much like we do at a dumb supper. However, I suggest decorating this dinner table with as many blooms as you possibly can, be it of roses or any other flower that brings you joy. Lastly, this is an excellent time to simply engage with the rose, period. The rose as a plant, the rose as a green ally, the rose as a spirit of the earth, and just really get to know the energy of the rose, be it the red rose or the wild roses blooming on a thicket by your driveway. Whatever roses are in your general vicinity or you're called to, this could be a really great time to open that door to spirit communication with the spirit of rose. You could also infuse rose petals into oils, teas, charm bags, baths, to really engage and bring in the energy of the rose that is just so easily amplified during this festival time. Whatever you choose to do or not, my dear listener, as the spring air fills with the scent of roses and other blooming flowers, consider the power of Rosalia. It's a festival that reminds us that beauty and remembrance walk hand in hand, and that life and death are not and never will be separate, but are constantly intertwined, just like the intricate, beautiful petals of a rose. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to maybe follow me on Instagram, maybe follow me on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. It really helps the show. And if you really, really liked this episode, consider sharing it with somebody that you think might enjoy engaging with the energy of roses. If you'd like to talk with me or share with me your thoughts, you can find how to do that in the show notes on your respective podcast hosting platforms. Thank you so much for joining me. Please be sure to tune in next time for more magical explorations. Until then, I hope that your roses bloom boldly and that your ancestors whisper sweet blessings to you upon your path. My name is Wishamaya, and don't forget to keep your roots deep and your dreams wild. I'll catch you next time, listener.